Hey guys, have you seen the hilarious new SNL skit mocking gay dudes with children? What? We've seen the clearest example of culture being downstream from politics after Donald Trump's election. Suddenly DEI and rainbow flags aren't cool anymore. Have you noticed that businesses are walking back their woke agenda? Wow, I love it. I'm here for all of it. Let's dive into how politics impacts culture and vice versa. Give us a rating and review to help us reach more people. Go to Rumble, please, in case YouTube ever bans me or digitally assassinates the show. Join us at thewhiterose.life as we rebuild Christian resistance before it's too late. We do need your help. We're not afraid to ask for it. We are getting in front of more evangelicals and Protestants on the issue of the culture war in life than almost any other organization. It's been the hand of God on this ministry, and we got to make the local church great again. We got to reawaken the church to their cultural mandate duties, right? First fruits of revival is protection for women and children. This is our mantle. That's what we're doing at the White Rose Resistance. Go to thewhiterose.life, support us, join us as an ally at $35 a month, get your battle box in the mail, and join our app with curriculum, courses, live calls. We hang out, we pour into you because the church is plan only. $70 a month, book club, air support, read books with me. Let's talk about them live on Zoom. We need your help. This episode, you're going to be laughing. You're going to have a good time. We're taking back the culture. Let's get into it. This is the Seth Gruber Show. Hey guys, Saturday Night Live just mocked gay couples as baby thieves. Cut. Like, what? How is that a true statement? And what in the world is the world healing right now? This is one of the most incredible, maybe, cultural moments in the last 15 years. Like, seriously. Like, I'm kind of speechless right now. I saw this on Twitter, on X, and I like immediately knew we had to talk about it on the show, but I'm not, like, I don't even really know where to start on the commentary on this. Saturday Night Live, which has not been funny in, 12 years, guys? 15 years? I don't know. When's the last time Saturday Night Live did something truly funny that, like, the whole culture and both sides of the political aisle was kind of chuckling at? I don't know. But to mock gay couples as baby thieves? I'm like, did I just step into like a DeLorean? Did I just discover SNL from like the 1940s? What is going on right now? Like, oh my gosh. What if, can you imagine if the Daily Wire did this skit or Babylon Bee did this skit in 2021? They would have been like homophobes, transphobes, Christo-fascists, Christian nationalists, theocratic chauvinists. But now SNL does it because the mean tweeting orange man is back in the White House and it feels like the world is healing. We just have to play this. Pull it up. Okay, put it on the screen, guys. I might have to pause this, but listen, guys, if you're in the car, okay, turn the volume up. Okay, if you're watching this, full attention. If you haven't watched this clip, this is one of the most interesting cultural phenomenon that's happened in the last 15 years. Play clip.
Whose baby is that?
Excuse me? It's ours.
Wait, but how?
Okay, I'm sorry, but gay people can't have a baby?
Yeah, but like, where did it come from?
Excuse me?
Excuse me?
Wow, you are not allowed to talk like that.
That is so invasive.
Okay, but like we were with you last night and you did not have a baby.
Yeah, and you guys said that after dinner you were going to go to a rave called Bulge Dungeon, and now today you have a baby.
What we're asking is, how did this happen?
Okay, I'm sorry. Why is it when it's us an interrogation? I don't ask you why you're poor.
I loaned you $10,000.
I think we're just wondering who the mother is. Okay, well,
That's
between
right.
the two of us, I'm more emotional, and I like shopping, so me, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I have long hair and he is an alcoholic, so I guess it's like two moms, I guess. Yeah.
Guys, how did you get this baby?
Okay, we didn't pull it out of your vagina, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, people think they can ask gay people anything. It's not okay.
There's so much there. Oh my goodness. And so this is what was it, last week or something? Just went completely viral on X. Like my buddy Charlie Kirk's like, I think I'm gonna start watching SNL again. Right? Like that's because that's legitimately funny. Right? That's like remember the old line, it's funny because it's true. It's funny because it's true. Because the funniest things are actually true things. Like life has a sense of hilarity to it. And the best comedians always joke about real life experiences, about real human life, funny things that happen in life, right? That's why transgenderism used to be funny. It used to be kind of a joke, right? Or transvestites, like men who dress up as women. It's funny. It's funny. And that used to be used as a form of like comedy and entertainment until now it's like, no, you're actually screamed at to like say slay queen, trans women really are women, right? It's like, well, no, they're not. That's why it's funny. That's why it's funny when a dude dresses up as a woman and we all laugh at it because it's like, it's upside down. It's like not how you're supposed to act as a man. So we kind of laugh at it, right? Like laughing at stupid things is actually like a really healthy thing to do in a culture. But this video is so shocking because of course they're saying like, oh, are you saying we stole the baby? It's like, well, did you? Right? Like, because of course, like y'all didn't have the baby. Obviously y'all don't have, neither of those dudes has a uterus, except of course when the normal couples are like, wait, is one of you a trans man? Right? Which would mean actually that like one of them's a woman who is quote unquote attempting to transition to a man. But of course, that person is actually a female with female chromosomes. So they actually have a uterus. So in that case, like the baby could have actually gone in there. But the two dudes are like, no, we're both dudes. Don't ask us that. We're actually both dudes in a homosexual relationship. Well, then where did you get the baby? That's literally what conservatives and actually, you know what, just sort of like run-of-the-mill common sense realists asked when Pete Buttigieg like tweeted out this photo with twins that like him and his like, I think he calls the man he's with a husband, but a husband can't have a husband. But anyways, the dude that he sodomizes every night, then they say they're married. They say that they're daddies now, and they have two twins. But first, guys, join me on June 21st, 2025 at the Last Stand in Downey, California. We'll have David Harris Jr., Pastor Jack Hibbs, Alex Clark, Riley Gaines, Victor Marks, Jaco Buyens, and Worship from 10th Avenue North. It's going to be a fun full-day event in Southern California with worship speakers and amazing like-minded vendors to shop around at. We'll have family-friendly stuff. Bring your kids. Why? Because Trump is not our savior. He's a tourniquet. The church cannot get lazy now. It's time to press in. Stay close to the Father and in fellowship with like-minded people who know that it's our job to protect the children. We're pressing the gas all the way down at the Last Stand, and I want to see you there. Okay, we're taking back June. We're taking back June as Life Month, and you can join us at thelaststand.com. Go to thelaststand.com, get your ticket today. Use promo code SETH10, SETH10, for 10% off your order, and we'll see you on June 21st at the Last Stand. Like the interaction between the semi-normal heterosexual couples and the two gay couples in the SNL skit, that interaction, that little scenario we just watched, literally happened a few years ago. Everyone was like, "Hey Pete, where'd you get the babies from?" Because that's what everyone wants to know. Like, and some people were like, "I'm sure they just adopted the two babies from a couple or a woman who got a single woman, maybe she got pregnant and she was a surrogate, or for Pete's sperm, or maybe it was just a young woman who got pregnant and the father wasn't in the picture and she wasn't ready to be a kid, but she just happened to be pregnant with twins, and then she just happened to want to give the two twins to a very rising, popular political figure for him and his quote unquote husband. I guess that's there's a chance of that, but very unlikely. Very unlikely. So, of course, how do two dudes get babies? Right? Well, we've had Katie Faust on the show to talk about that question many, many times. Of course, it's one of their sperm and it's some woman's egg. Okay. And so they go buy an egg. And then they usually would find another woman as the surrogate. Sometimes it's the same woman. You could do artificial insemination with some woman who will take money to be that person. And so they're the biological mother and the birth mother. But in many cases in the homosexual community, especially with two dudes, it's sometimes two different women. So one's the biological mother, right? So that she's providing the egg, the gamete, and then it's a completely different woman who's the birth mother, who's the surrogate. And that woman is the only mother that child actually knows. Because when you tinker with like human nature like this, the child doesn't know that the mother's body, rhythms, movement, diet, sound of voice, favorite music to listen to on Spotify, like the child doesn't know that woman that he or she is living in is not their birth mother. How could they possibly know that? All the baby knows is this is mom, and it's the only human being that the child knows at that point. So we're splitting motherhood into multiple mothers, right? Into multiple humans. So these are the ways that gay couples get children. Yet, yes, there are cases where two dudes, they go through an orphan, or an adoption process. And in many cases, of course, the left is threatening, they've been threatening to sue and shut down Christian-run or religious-run adoption agencies that won't place children with two mommies or two daddies, and forcing them to do that or shutting them down by suing them for discrimination. It's like crazy, right? But by and large, it's not like we're just adopting another baby. It's because everyone craves that sort of biological relationship, that biological link, right? That biological identity. And so obviously one of the gay dudes has to not be a parent, although go listen to the last Katie Faust episode on what they're trying to do to eliminate mothers entirely. Like, so that no female gametes are used to create a baby. Like, it's like, weird breaking edge stuff is going on, right? But right now the norm would be one of those gay dudes is not going to have a biological relationship with the kid. It's one of this guy's sperm, and then an egg, and then a surrogate, and then one of the gay dudes can say, I'm actually your father to the kids. Okay. But like you weren't allowed to ask these questions or make jokes about this until recently. I mean, like there were people who had like social media posts removed, guys. Okay. For like, they call it attacking, right, and demeaning, but for exposing the just hilarious nature of gay marriage with like two daddies and two mommies, because like all the Democrats, like not even, oh my gosh, what is it, guys? What is it? It's 2025. So like not even 10 years ago, maybe 11 or 12 years ago, like all the Democrats were like, yeah, children need a father. Children to serve fathers, like fathers in the home, being good fathers and loving their children, being involved is one of the most important like social aspects of success for the future, and like a healthy generation, right? That won't become criminals, that won't become drug users, right? That like won't become alcoholics, that won't become criminals, that like they're good citizens. Like we were all allowed to say this until Obergefell and the redefinition of marriage. And now it's like if two lesbians want to be a mommies, now you're not allowed to say, wait, I thought all the Democrats just said a few years ago that children deserve a father. But if they deserve a father, then then you actually can't allow two lesbian mommies to adopt kids because that violates the kid's right to a father. I'm so confused, right? You see how quickly the progressives have just completely reinvented their entire political philosophy to kowtow to the LGBTQ LMNOPI, my name is Legion mob that is always redefining human nature itself, right? But you used to be allowed to talk about this, that children deserve a mother and a father. But people, have had their careers ruined. People have been fired. Maybe if you're listening to this, you've been fired. You know people who have been fired and experienced like career suicide from their employer because they spoke out against things like this, right? Policies in their corporation or company, right? The full rainbowification, the full like June month, gay month, like inculcation of that pagan religion into big corporate life and companies, right? And people have stood up against that and spoken out against that. Like they've been fired for critiquing, joking about, pointing out the stupid nature of what now SNL is doing. Saturday Night Live is doing. It's like, yo, people have like lost their careers for basically doing what Saturday Night Live just did. It's like, oh. And then, and like, how funny was that in the video? And it's like, it's the baby is they, them. They haven't told us what they are yet. Okay. It's like, dude, I thought we weren't allowed to joke about that. And now the liberal mainstream ecclesiastical media companies are doing it. This is good for the culture, actually, is what I'm trying to say. This is really, really good. And by the way, nothing else explains SNL's immediate pivot towards mocking gay couples than the election of Donald Trump. Nothing else explains Saturday Night Live's immediate pivot to now mocking their own side of the aisle other than the election of Donald Trump. Do you think that if Kamala Harris had been sworn in January as the next president, do you think that Saturday Night Live would have premiered this skit? Okay. Literally everyone knows the answer to that. Everyone knows the answer to that is nope. There's no stinking way. Okay. So what does this tell us? Like, why is this hilarious little 3-minute scene from SNL that we just watched together? Why is it so culturally significant? Why is it so culturally important to talk about? Because it means that Anthony Breitbart was right, but he didn't go far enough. Anthony Breitbart famously said that politics is downstream of culture. Politics is downstream of culture. What does that mean? That culture is a more powerful, formative factor in your society and in your worldviews, your politics, and your politicians than anything else. And so, as goes the culture, so goes the politics. That's what Anthony Breitbart meant. And I think that's self-evidently true, right? I mean, you think about people like Joe Biden, right? Or do you remember the episode we did a few weeks ago? It hasn't been a few months now, where we played clips of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden talking about how marriage is a man and a woman. This debate has been settled. Why are we even talking about this anymore? There's no such thing as same-sex marriage. And you're like, wow, you guys pivoted quickly, right? It's because the culture was shifting in that direction, right? There's so much more here, but first we want to thank our sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diaper Company, everylife.com. Okay, America's pro-life diaper company. As our sole sponsor, they're incredible. But if you guys are tired of hearing about them, I don't care. Help us out. Send it to a friend. Yeah. Send it to a friend having babies or someone having grandbabies. Okay. Or the person who runs the nursery at your home church. You're getting diapers at your church, right? Don't get them from pro-abortion diaper companies. Almost every major baby diaper brand company is pro-abortion, rhetorically or financially subsidized. It's insane. You need to get your diapers, your wipes, and your baby shampoos. It's all non-toxic. Make America healthy again. From everylife.com. Use promo code Seth10, Seth10 for 10% off your first order. Let them know that we sent you. That's important. And set up the subscription model. If you're still spitting out lots of babies, we love it. It comes straight to our house. We don't have to think about running out. I know the founders of Every Life. They're godly, Christian, pro-life, pro-America, anti-woke. The conservative Christians are having more babies than anyone else anyways, guys. So let's defund pro-abortion woke baby brands by going to everylife.com, promo code Seth10, and thank you, Every Life. And of course, we've talked on the show before about the radical leftists and the cultural Marxists and the long walk through the institutions and the strategy of the robes and the Frankfurt School and Antonio Gramsci and Herbert Marcuse, right? And Wilhelm Reich and the first generation of the Frankfurt School cultural Marxists that realized that the most powerful way to change the culture would not be riots in the street or political violence and unrest, but laying siege to the foundations of Western civilization. The schools, medicine, scientific organizations, the universities, the courts, and the clergy. Okay, so we've talked about all that, about how they've shifted culture, and politicians like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, who don't really believe in anything, they just kind of lick their finger and they stick it up in the air and they see which way the wind's blowing. And they go that direction, right? They kowtow. They tailor their message, their policies, and their politics to what they think will make them most popular and most electable. Okay. So I think that's self-evidently true. But I think that Anthony Breitbart didn't go far enough. I think that politics is downstream of culture, but culture is also downstream of politics. I think it's a two-way street. That's what I think. This is a great example, is it not? Politics, something changed politically, I think. Donald Trump got back into the White House, so that's a political change, right? That's a political event. Oh, and is it impacting culture? Like we're watching Robbie Starbuck, our good brother, whose film we were in, The War on Children. We've had him in the show. We're watching his battle against DEI and woke policies and corporations. We're watching him be more successful than ever. Excuse me. Getting corporations to kick out their DEI policies. He's way more successful now, even in the last few months, than he was 2 years ago. Why? Because the election of Donald Trump. Right. Why is Gavin Newsom with Charlie Kirk on his podcast? Why is Gavin Newsom saying, you're right, it's unfair for men to compete in women's sports? What prompted him saying that? A political event, the election of Donald Trump. These are examples of culture being downstream of politics. And this is so important, I think, for the church to grasp, right? Because believe me, I have heard all manner of excuses and justifications from pastors as to why they don't get involved. Like politically, like in their communities at the state level, yes, at the federal level with presidential elections. I've heard all manner of explanations, justifications, and excuses, but usually it boils down to something like, that's not what I'm called to. I'm called to just preach the gospel. I'm called to the saving of souls, sharing the love of Jesus, right? Not this culture war, not the politics, right? But your politics will fundamentally alter your culture, which affects the worldviews, mindsets, and livelihoods of the people in your congregation that you preach to, and the people in your community that you're hoping to reach with the saving news of the gospel. All of this impacts everything else. What are examples of this, by the way? Like, what are other examples of this? Abortion is a great example of this. Did you know that after Roe versus Wade, so 1973, the annual number of abortions exploded? Well, that's not a shocker, right? Roe v. Wade and its companion case, Doe versus Bolton, legalized abortion functionally through point of birth in all 50 states for any reason or no reason at all. So what used to be illegal became legal. And I have the numbers on this. I don't have it in front of me, but we've put this in essays and articles before and on the podcast, but the median average of abortions annually in the late 60s and like 1970 was about 98,000. Okay, so median, the average, okay? It's hard to get accurate numbers, but so maybe somewhere around 100,000 babies were being killed annually in the late 60s, 1970, 1971. In the years immediately following Roe versus Wade, so like 1974, 75, 76, do you know what the annual number of children being slaughtered in their mother's uterus rose to? Like 1.6 million. Oh my gosh. So let's see if I'm doing my math right. That's about a 1.5 million increase. 1.5 million more babies being killed. I wonder what explained that cultural change. Politics. Politics explains that cultural change. The legalization of abortion in all 50 states. The Supreme Court legislating from the bench. Judicial tyranny. That political event impacted culture. Politics is downstream of culture, but culture is also downstream of politics. Okay. What's another example of this? No-fault divorce laws. Were more or less couples getting divorced after no-fault divorce laws? Were more or less families ripped apart with children having to split the time between the parents? More or less after no-fault divorce laws? Yeah, more, of course. Politics impacting culture. And then another powerful example of this, and my buddy Michael Knowles has made this point, and it's very powerfully made. It's the difference between East and West Germany. Between East and West Germany. East Germany today is mostly atheist. Did you know that? East Germany is mostly atheist today. More than 50% of East Germans identify as atheists. More than half of East Germany is atheist, while only 10% of West Germans are atheist. Only 10% of West Germans are atheists. So does culture explain this? As Michael says, is this because of a regional variation in bratwursts? That you have a huge disparity in religiosity? No, of course not. It's because East Germany was dominated by the officially atheist Soviet Union for decades, which pursued a policy of stamping out Christianity. And that had cultural effects, even after the East German government went away. So that's an example of culture being downstream of the politics. Another maybe example of this is the Great Society Act. Are you aware of that with LBJ? We should probably do more on that, actually. A lot of it has to do with the attack on the black family, right? It fits into a lot of Margaret Sanger's ideology, right? And the eugenicists of the early 20th century. But, you know, LBJ, who said, I'll have those Negroes voting Democrat for the next 100 years. Or did he say 200 years? Anyways, that guy. The Great Society Act was allegedly, I mean, this is perfect example of what Allie Beth Stuckey calls toxic empathy, right? It allegedly was to help the black family, right? But what did the Great Society Act do? Well, it ended up subsidizing fatherless homes. Subsidizing fatherless homes. Single moms, the family, only got a check from Big Daddy government if it was a single mother household. If the daddy wasn't in the picture, if he's not in the house, okay, then you get a check from the government. That's not good. That's not good. And so the percentage of intact married black couples parenting their own children under the same roof has changed from something like 80 to 90% intact right after the abolition of slavery to something today like only 30%. It's to 28%, something horrific, of Black families are intact with mother and father living under the same roof, married and raising their children together. So turns out that had cultural effects. That's politics impacting culture. I think I've given enough examples. Aristotle, he said statecraft is soulcraft. Statecraft is soulcraft. The state, through its laws and policies, right, prescribes which kind of behaviors are acceptable and not acceptable in a civilized society. So law functions as a moral teacher. By relegating things to the realm of legal and illegal, good and bad, recommended and not recommended, the law forms the morality of the next generation. Law is a teacher. You cannot restore recognition of the unborn's humanity so long as the people holding public office support the intentional killing of the unborn. Like, we also have to have political change that will help change the culture. We can't just wait for the culture to catch up. Do you think the abolitionists, right, in Lincoln's era were just satisfied to kind of just preach repentance to the unregenerate heart of the plantation owner and hope that we change enough of the hearts in the culture so that the politics follow suit? No, of course not. They were ruthlessly pursuing a change in culture whilst simultaneously trying to change the laws. Why? Because they understood that statecraft is soulcraft. That the state, through its laws, does change the soul of the republic, the conscience of the people, right? And of course, you know, we should ask the question, do you think the American culture was ready for abolition? Yeah, methinks not, because I think we had to fight a civil war. I don't think the culture was ready for abolition. But in hindsight, wouldn't we say that it was still a good thing to do everything we could to pass laws that would abolish slavery, even if the hearts of the people in the culture weren't ready for it? Yeah, I think we would say that was still a good thing. Okay. Because politics does impact culture. This SNL skit is just such a great example of that. And it's an absolutely hilarious example. But now SNL, for the first time in 15 years, maybe 20 years, guys, is creating comedy for a non-liberal, non-woke audience. They're recognizing that the culture has the election of Donald Trump was a complete cultural repudiation of wokeism. It was a complete cultural repudiation of transgenderism. It was a complete cultural repudiation of the Democrat Party. Every swing state went for Trump. Every single swing state swung for Trump. So now the Hollywood elites are like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? If we're going to remain relevant and stay around, we need to get Americans who are right of center laughing at our content, laughing at what we create, being entertained by what we create, wanting to watch what we create. This is a great thing for the culture. And of course, like, we should laugh at that skit. We should laugh at, like, so I think y'all both have phalluses, so where'd you get the baby? Remember the scene where they're like, last night you told us you were going to an event called the Bulge Rave, and now you have a baby, so where'd you get it? Who's the mommy? Exactly, who's the mommy? Who's the do you know what the entire, like, philosophical assumption is behind that whole skit? What are the unspoken truths? What are the unspoken realities that are operative, even in the minds of the producers, even in the minds of the directors who made that SNL skit? What is it? That children deserve a mother and a father. That's the entire, like, assumption, philosophical, cultural assumptions behind that whole thing. That children deserve a mommy and a daddy. And when two gay dudes have a kid, the first thing someone who's living in reality should think, okay, let's just get ourselves in trouble. The first thing someone should think when they say two, I've seen two dudes with walking around with children because I fly a lot and I have layovers, you know, and I'll see two gay dudes with a baby, and he's wearing the baby in the stupid thing. What's that called? I used to wear it. And the other dude's pushing the stroller. The first thing you should think is how sad. When you see two gay dudes pretending to be two daddies to an infant, to a baby, to a child, to a toddler, the first thing you should think is how sad. Where's his mother? Where's the mommy? Okay. And this is something that young adults who were raised by two mommies or young adults who were raised by two daddies, if they're honest, if you go read the forums online, if you go do the research and you go read the stories of these people, most of them will honestly say, if it's two dads, I always craved to be around women. And vice versa. Why is that? Because we have an innate longing from where we came from who we came from who we are, from what our identity is. And every human being in all of human history has a mother and a father. And we all long for that. And we all know that deep down. And that's why when you see two lesbians with a child, two gay dudes with a child, it's appropriate, it's correct, and it is right to feel sad for the child and to ask the question that these people asked in the SNL skit, where's the mommy? It's just a absolutely cultural linchpin pivoting of an event that SNL did this skit. And I'm here for it all. I love it. Because it means politics is impacting culture. And the storytellers, the media, the movie makers, the authors, the catechizers of liberal modernity are now communicating eternal truths and even joking about the conclusions of liberal modernity. They're creating content that laughs at the whatever iteration of liberalism we're in. They're laughing at it. and that's why humor and satire is such a great thing, right? Because it's been said satire is traditionally the weapon of the powerless against the powerful. Like, satire is like, it's kind of like the court jester who mocks the king, right, in the court. And he's joking about things that are true and real. Right? It's only funny because it's true. Like, satire reawakens moral and spiritual intuitions, but because it does it through the lens of comedy and humor, it clues the modern mind into eternal truths that you could not argue them into. That's what satire and humor does. That's why when Dave Chappelle, wow, that was one of the first clips that we ever addressed on the Seth Gruber Show when it was called Unaborted in 2019. This old Dave Chappelle Netflix skit, guys, he says, what does he say? He says, I think that fathers shouldn't have to pay financial support to the babies that they create. He says, I totally support a woman's right to choose. And he gets applause from the audience. He's like, it's between a woman and her doctor. Right? He gives the like run-of-the-mill liberal answer on the abortion question. Completely ignores the unborn, right? Just says a woman and her doctor kind of line, right? And then he goes, however, and everyone in the audience like, oh, what's he going to say? I think it was his live skit from Atlanta. I forget what it was called, and he goes, however, I also believe that if she chooses to keep the baby, the man should not have to pay. And his final line is if you can kill this mother expletive, the least I can do is abandon him. And then Chappelle says, and if I'm wrong, then maybe we're wrong. And then he just goes on to another segment in the comedy skit. And like, guys, it's another one of those interesting cultural moments where you're like, whoa, are you allowed to say that? And if you go watch it, okay, and I mean, it's like, we don't want to support Netflix, but this was before they were creating sexually charged content for minors on Netflix. But I think it was 2019. And the audience, which is like, this is like downtown Atlanta, right? Like these guys are crazy libs. They don't know whether to laugh at it or not. That's what was so incredible about it. The people were like, because they're like, wait, I see what he means, but I'm pro-choice. I don't know how to handle it. What? Because what did Dave Chappelle do? Whether he's pro-life or not, he used comedy, right, to awaken like moral intuitions toward the strange nature of being pro-choice and putting the audience mindset in a place that you could not have argued them into being. That's why comedy and satire is such a great, effective thing. Okay. And it's good for the culture. What SNL did in mocking gay couples as baby thieves is good for the culture. And the next generation, Gen Zers, right, who we know are a little bit like, woohoo, like they can be culturally catechized into beginning to reject modernity and liberalism through things like this SNL skit. I don't know who master planned this SNL skit. Frankly, I don't care. I want more of it. I want more skits that mock and make fun of the anti-family redefinition of parental rights in children, liberal modernity, leftist nonsense that apparently now under the mean tweeting orange man, we're allowed to joke about again. I just can't believe that happened. It's like people have been saying like, since Trump got elected, it feels like the world is healing. And of course, he's had some bad things. Again, we talk about it on the show. We celebrate him when he does good things. We tell him to stop it when he does bad things. Okay, we're accountable to the GOD, not the GOP. But like, doesn't it feel like that sometimes? It's like recently it sort of felt like the election of Donald Trump has led to like these international shifts, these cultural shifts. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. I truly believe that if we had ended up with Jezebel Harris as a president, I mean, my buddy Eric Metaxas said it on stage at the biggest screening of the 1916 Project. It's probably 4,000 people or something like that at World Outreach Church last summer. That if Jezebel Harris became president, that's it for America. I don't know how we would have come back from 4 years of that, actually. I think that lawfare would have been permanently codified. And I think that would have been it for like liberty. You know what I mean? Like freedom. It's a great thing. It's a great thing when the libs in Hollywood are mocking themselves and their friends. And because this revolves around babies and children's rights, let's make that conversation great again. And let's tune in the cultural consciousness to the conversation of children's rights, mommies and daddies, unborn children, marriage, the nuclear family. Remember BLM, before they struck it from their website, they said, we exist to disrupt the Western contrived notion of the nuclear family. But if the nuclear family is contrived from Western civilization, then what gave birth to Western civilization? Christianity. Christendom. That's why G.K. Chesterton said, we have lost our national instincts because we have lost that sense of Christendom from which the nations came. In freeing ourselves from Christianity, we have only succeeded in freeing ourselves from freedom. SNL, keep it up. I haven't watched you guys in 10 years. You do more of that, you're going to have the MAGA, right of center, and even Christian nationalists tuning in to laugh at things that we should have been able and allowed to laugh at from the beginning. Till next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.